Vela stood by the window staring at the 3 moons hanging in the purple sky. Her once beautiful blue wings drooped behind her back, torn and lifeless. 8 years had passed since the collar was locked around her neck. The metal ring stopped. Her mind powers and kept her a prisoner in her own body. The ship arrived yesterday. Humans, a new species that Commander Zex Kalor wanted to meet. Vela had heard whispers about them from other slaves. They looked strange with their flat faces and no scales. Some said humans were weak. Others said they were dangerous. Vela touched the collar and winced. Even a light touch hurt her sensitive skin. It sent painful shocks through her body whenever she tried to disobey. In the beginning, she had fought back. She had tried to reach out with her mind to other Lumina slaves. But each time the pain drove her to her knees, screaming until her throat was raw. Now she obeyed without question. She moved through her duties like a machine. Clean the commander's rooms. Prepare his meals. Stand silently during his meetings. Power his private energy systems with her natural abilities. Show guests how completely he owned her. Commander Zex Kalor watched her from across the room. His black armor gleamed in the dim light. 4 eyes tracked her every move while his clawed hands gripped the edge of his chair. "The humans will arrive soon," he said, voice like grinding stones. "You will make sure everything is perfect." "Yes, Master," Vela replied, her voice flat and empty. "These humans think they are important, coming here to trade with the Dominion." The commander laughed, a harsh sound that made Vela's skin crawl. "They don't realize they're already mine. Their minerals, their technology, their people, all of it will serve me." Vela nodded, keeping her eyes down. Inside her chest, both hearts beat with dull rhythm. Once, she had been a teacher on her homeworld, helping young Lumina learn to fly and use their mind powers. Now she was just a thing to be used and shown off. "They have strange ideas," the commander continued. "They speak of cooperation and mutual benefit." He spat the words out like they tasted bad. "You will show them what real power looks like. You will show them perfect obedience." "Yes, Master," Vela said again. The door slid open. A guard entered and bowed. "The human ship has docked, Commander. Their representatives are on their way." Zex Kalor stood, his tall body unfolding like a deadly plant. He towered over Vela, nearly twice her height. "Remember, slave, one mistake and you'll spend a week in the pain chamber." Vela took her place behind his chair, standing straight with her hands clasped in front of her. The light under her pale skin dimmed to almost nothing, as required when important guests arrived. She was meant to be living furniture, present but invisible until needed. The doors opened and 5 humans entered the room. Vela kept her eyes down, but she studied them from under her lashes. They wore blue uniforms with silver trim. 4 men and 1 woman. The leader stepped forward, a man with broad shoulders and light brown hair. "Commander Zex Kalor," the human said, his voice warm and deep. "I'm Captain Alan Reeves of the Earth Alliance vessel constellation. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." The commander's upper claws clicked together, a sign of satisfaction. "Captain, your arrival has been anticipated. The Paraxian Dominion welcomes potential new trading partners." Vela listened as they spoke about minerals, space routes, and territories. The humans spoke carefully, never agreeing to anything directly. This made the commander angry, though he hid it well. "Perhaps you would like refreshments," Zex Kalor said after an hour. "Slave, serve our guests." Vela moved forward, head still bowed. She picked up the crystal pitcher and began filling glasses with the blue liquid inside. When she reached Captain Reeves, her hand trembled slightly. "Thank you," the human said quietly. Vela froze. No one thanked slaves. She risked a quick glance at his face and found him looking directly at her. Not through her like most did. Not at her body with greedy eyes like others. He looked at her face, into her eyes, like she was a person. His eyes were deep blue, like the lakes on her lost homeworld. They held something she hadn't seen in years. Kindness. The moment stretched between them. Only seconds, but feeling much longer. Then Vela remembered herself and quickly looked down again. She moved to the next human, her heart racing with fear. Had the commander noticed? Would she be punished later? But something had changed inside her. A tiny crack had formed in the wall she had built around her feelings. Through that crack, a dangerous sensation began to seep in. She had almost forgotten its name. Hope. As the meeting continued, Vela kept stealing glances at the human captain. Once she caught him watching her with a thoughtful expression. Another time she saw him frown when the commander yanked her forward to demonstrate how the collar worked. The neural restraint ensures complete control, Zex's Kalor explained, pressing a button on his wrist device. Vela's body seized up, muscles locking painfully as electricity coursed through her. Useful for managing troublesome species. Fascinating technology, Captain Reeves said, but his voice had grown cold. On Earth, we find that willing cooperation usually produces better results than forced compliance. The commander laughed. A charming philosophy, perhaps useful for less advanced civilizations. When the humans finally left, Vela stood still, waiting for her next orders. But in her mind, for the first time in years, something stirred. The human had seen her. Really, seen her. Not as a slave or a tool, but as a living being worthy of basic respect. That night in her small sleeping cell, Vela touched her collar and looked at her reflection in the metal wall. The dim blue glow under her skin pulsed slightly brighter than it had in years. Hope, she whispered to herself, testing the word on her tongue. It tasted strange and dangerous, like a forgotten dream suddenly remembered. Outside her cell, the three moons continued their silent dance across the alien sky. But inside, something had awakened that Vela thought had died long ago, the first tiny spark of rebellion. Captain Alan Reeves returned to his ship after meeting the Paraxians. He couldn't stop thinking about the glowing woman with the broken wings. The collar around her neck made his stomach twist with anger. "You look troubled, Captain," said Security, Chief Olivia Grant, as they entered the ship's meeting room. Alan nodded. "I've seen slaves before, but something about this one." He shook his head. "Did you notice how her skin glowed when I spoke to her?" The four members of his team sat around the table. Their real mission wasn't just about trade deals. The Earth Alliance had sent them to learn about the Paraxian Dominion slavery practices. Alan had special orders from Alliance Command that even some of his crew didn't know about. "The slave with the blue wings is called Illumina," said Susan, Mitchell checking her datapad. Susan was their expert on alien cultures. Their home planet was one of the first the Paraxians attacked. They have natural powers to control energy and talk to each other with their minds. That's why they wear those collars, added Jack Bennett, the team's doctor. It blocks their mind powers and hurts them if they disobey. Alan stood up and paced the room. "Tomorrow, I'll ask for a tour of their energy stations. We need to see how many slaves they have and how the control system works." "Sir," Olivia warned, "if they catch us helping slaves, they'll see it as an act of war." "I know the risks," Alan said, "but we can't make deals with people who treat others like tools. The Alliance doesn't work that way." Later that night, Alan couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the Lumina woman's sad eyes. He decided to check the ship's database for more information about her species. Meanwhile, in the Pyraxian base, Commander Zex Kalor summoned Vela to his private chambers. "The humans are hiding something," he said, his four eyes narrowed with suspicion. "You will use your powers to read their thoughts." Vela's hearts beat faster with fear. "Master, the collar blocks most of my abilities." "I can adjust it," he said, typing on his wrist computer. "Enough to let you sense their true intentions, but not enough for you to use your powers against me." The collar beeped, and Vela felt a slight loosening of the mental chains that bound her. With it came pain that burned through her nerves like fire. "Go to their quarters," Zex Kalor ordered. "Listen to their private talks. See into their minds. Tell me what they're planning." Vela bowed her head. "Yes, Master." Two guards took her to the human quarters and left her in a hidden service passage that ran behind the walls. Small vents allowed her to hear the humans talking. The pain from using her powers made her dizzy, but she pushed through it. "We need to find the control center for the neural collars," she heard Alan say. "If we could disrupt it somehow." Vela closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. For the first time in years, she could sense the thoughts of others. The human captain's mind felt warm and bright, filled with anger at her situation and determination to help. She saw images in his thoughts. Earth Alliance ships freeing slaves on other worlds, a secret plan to offer escaped slaves protection, and most surprising of all, genuine care for beings he had never met before. "These Paraxians are worse than we thought," another human said. "Did you see how they treated that Lumina woman? Like she wasn't even alive." "We'll find a way to help her," Alan promised, "and all the others." Vela pulled back from their minds, tears streaming down her face, not from the pain of using her abilities but from the shock of finding kindness after so many years of cruelty. She should report everything to her master. That was what she was ordered to do. The collar would punish her if she didn't. But something inside her had changed when the human captain had looked at her with respect. When the guards came to take her back, Vela had made her decision. She would tell Zex Kalor some of what she had heard, but not everything. She would hide the humans' true intentions. "Well," Commander Zexa Kalor demanded when she returned, "what are the humans planning?" Vela kept her eyes down, hiding the new light that had begun to grow inside her. "They wish to see more of our base, Master. They are interested in our energy systems." "Is that all?" He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. "They are cautious about trading with us," she said carefully. "They need our minerals, but worry about our strength." The commander smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Good. Tomorrow I will show them just how powerful we are. Then they will agree to our terms." He adjusted her collar again, closing off her mental abilities. The sudden cutoff made her collapse to her knees. "Take her back to her cell," he ordered the guards. That night, Vela lay on her hard bed, her mind racing despite her exhaustion. The humans wanted to help her. They saw her as a person, and their captain, Alan Reeves, had a plan. For the first time in 8 years, Vela allowed herself to imagine freedom. She pictured her wings whole again, soaring through open skies. She imagined her mind reaching out to touch others of her kind without pain or punishment. "I will help them," she whispered to herself in the darkness. "Even if it kills me." The next morning, Captain Alan Reeves requested a tour of the energy processing facilities. Commander Zex Kalor agreed, eager to show off his empire's power. Neither man showed their true intentions, but Vela, standing silently behind her master, felt the tension between them like electricity in the air. She watched Alan carefully as they walked toward the energy center. When his eyes met hers for a brief moment, she gave him the smallest nod. A signal so tiny no one else would notice. But Alan saw it, and the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. A silent understanding passed. Between them, the first step toward freedom had been taken. The next day, Alan and his team followed Commander Zexa Kalor through the Paraxian base. They passed through long hallways with metal walls and bright lights. Guards with plasma guns watched them at every turn. "Our energy center is the most advanced. In 3-star systems," the commander boasted. His 4 eyes blinked with pride as they entered a massive room filled with machines and glowing tubes. Alan tried not to show his shock at what he saw. Hundreds of blue-skinned Lumina stood in glass chambers. Each wore a neural collar like Vela's. Energy flowed from their bodies through tubes into the base's power systems. "These workers can produce energy for 18 hours before needing rest," Zex Kalor explained. "Much more efficient than mechanical systems." "Impressive," Alan said, forcing a smile while rage burned inside him. "How do you control so many at once?" The commander pointed to a tall tower in the center of the room. "The control hub manages all neural collars in the facility. One push of a button and I can shut down any slave who causes trouble." Alan glanced at Jack Bennett, his engineer. Jack gave a tiny nod, scanning the control hub with a device hidden in his sleeve. "The whole system depends on this central computer?" Alan asked innocently. "Yes, though it has many safeguards," the commander answered. "No slave has ever escaped our control." As they continued the tour, Alan noticed Vela following silently behind her master. She kept her eyes down, but he could tell she was listening carefully. When they returned to the main hall, Commander Zexcalor spread his forearms wide. Now you have seen our power. Tomorrow we will finalize our trade agreement. We look forward to it, Alan said with a diplomatic smile. That night, Alan met with his team in their quarters. Jack, what did you find? The engineer grinned. The control hub has one major weakness. The main power feeds run through a junction box near the south corridor. If we could insert a disruptor code there, it might crash the whole system. But we'd need access to a control terminal, Olivia pointed out, and we'd never get close without setting off alarms. Alan paced the room. We need someone on the inside. He stopped and looked at his team. We need Vela. The Lumina woman? Susan asked, surprised. How? She's watched all the time. Before Alan could answer, there was a soft knock at their door. Olivia drew her hidden weapon while Jack checked the security scanner. It's a Paraxian guard, Jack whispered. Alan moved to the door, motioning the others to hide their weapons. He opened it to find a tall guard standing there with Vela beside him. The commander sends his personal slave to serve refreshments, the guard said, a gesture of hospitality. How thoughtful, Alan replied, hiding his surprise. Please come in. The guard shoved Vela forward and left. As soon as the door closed, Vela's dim glow brightened slightly. They're listening, she whispered, her voice so quiet they could barely hear. The walls have sensors. Alan nodded and activated a small device in his pocket. Not anymore, he said at normal volume. Signal scrambler. We have 3 minutes. Vela's eyes widened. You really want to help us? We do, Alan said. He pulled a small chip from inside his uniform. This contains a program that will disable the neural collars, but we need someone to insert it into the control system. Vela stared at the tiny chip. I have limited access to the maintenance panels near the energy center. It's dangerous, Olivia warned. If you're caught, they will kill me, Vela finished simply. Her blue skin pulsed with light. But I would rather die trying to be free than live forever as a slave. Alan held out the chip. Tomorrow during the final meeting, we'll create a distraction. That will be your chance. Vela took the chip and carefully hid it under one of her wing scales. My people have suffered for too long. There are thousands of us throughout the Dominion. If we free just this facility, the Earth Alliance will protect any who escape, Susan promised. We have safe worlds where former slaves can rebuild their lives. The scrambler beeped a warning. They had 30 seconds left. What should I tell the commander you talked about? Vela asked quickly. Tell him we discussed Earth's mining techniques, Alan said. Say we're eager to trade but cautious about your military presence. Vela nodded. As the scrambler's light turned red, she dimmed her glow and picked up the tray of drinks she had brought. After she left, the team looked at each other. Can we trust her? Olivia asked. We have to, Alan replied. And I believe we can. I saw something in her eyes. Determination I've rarely seen before. The next morning, Vela prepared the great hall for the final meeting. Her hands trembled as she felt the chip hidden in her wing. Today she would either win freedom for her people or die trying. The hall filled with Paraxian officials and the human delegation. Commander Zexcalor sat on his raised chair, watching as Alan presented Earth's trade proposal. Vela moved quietly around the edges of the room, filling drinks and adjusting the temperature controls. Each time she passed near a control panel, she checked if it connected to the main system. Finally, she found what she needed: a maintenance access port near the commander's private door. It would connect directly to the control hub. She waited for the signal from Alan. He had said they would create a distraction, but what would it be? Minutes ticked by as the humans and Paraxians discussed mining rights and border controls. Then it happened. Susan Mitchell, the human woman, suddenly spilled her drink across the table, splashing several Paraxian officials. As guards rushed forward, and everyone's attention turned to the commotion. Alan nodded slightly to Vela. Now or never. Vela slipped to the maintenance panel and quickly removed the cover. Her fingers, trained from years of servicing the commander's quarters, moved swiftly. She inserted the chip into an open port and pressed the activation sequence Alan had taught her. For 3 terrifying seconds, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered throughout the hall. Vela felt a strange vibration in her collar. With a soft click, it fell from her neck and clattered to the floor. Throughout the facility, hundreds of collars were doing the same. Vela could feel her mental powers rushing back, stronger than she remembered. Suddenly, her mind connected with other Lumina throughout the base. Their shock, joy, and fear flooded her consciousness. "What is happening?" Commander Zexus Kalor roared, leaping to his feet. He turned and saw Vela standing tall, her collar on the floor, her wings beginning to spread. For the first time in 8 years, Vela looked directly into her former master's eyes without fear. "Freedom," she said. Chaos erupted in the great hall. Commander Zex Kalor shouted orders as guards rushed forward with weapons drawn. But they were too late. Throughout the base, neural collars dropped from the necks of hundreds of Lumina slaves. "Kill her!" the commander screamed, pointing at Vela. A guard fired his plasma gun, but Vela was no longer where she had been standing. With her powers restored, she could move faster than the Paraxians could track. Alan and his team sprang into action. Olivia pulled out hidden weapons and tossed one to Alan, while Jack activated a device that disrupted the guards' communication systems. Susan helped create cover by overturning the heavy meeting table. "The command center," Alan shouted to Vela over the noise. "We need to reach it to stop reinforcements." Vela nodded. Her mind was buzzing with the thoughts of hundreds of freed Lumina. She sent them a mental message. "Rise up. The humans are helping us. Take control of your sectors." Throughout the base, Lumina workers turned on their surprised overseers. Years of abuse and pain fueled their actions as they used their restored powers to fight back. Some controlled energy flows, creating shields or weapons. Others used their telepathy to confuse the Paraxians. In the Great Hall, Alan and his team fought alongside Vela. The human weapons weren't lethal but fired powerful stun charges that knocked the Paraxian guards unconscious. "This way," Vela called, leading them toward a side door. Her wings, though damaged, now moved with new strength as power flowed through her body again. Commander Zex Kalor roared with rage and launched himself at Alan, all 4 arms extended with deadly claws. Alan rolled to the side, but the commander was faster than he expected. Sharp claws ripped through his uniform, drawing blood. Before Zexa Kalor could strike again, Vela thrust her hands forward. Blue energy shot from her fingertips and hit the commander square in the chest. He flew backward and crashed into the wall. "I never knew you could do that," Alan said, breathing hard. "Neither did I," Vela replied, looking at her hands in surprise. "My powers are stronger than before." They ran through corridors filled with fighting. Freed Lumina joined them as they moved, forming a growing group of rebels. Vela's mind connected them all, allowing them to coordinate their movements without speaking. "The command center is ahead," Vela told Alan, "but it will be heavily guarded." She was right. 20 elite Paraxian soldiers stood outside the command center doors, their weapons ready. Behind them, technicians worked frantically to restore control of the neural system. "We need a distraction," Alan said. Vela closed her eyes and sent a message to Lumina in other parts of the base. Moments later, power surged through the facility's systems. Lights exploded, and alarm sirens wailed. Half the guards ran to check. "Other sectors. Now!" Alan shouted. His team fired their stun weapons while Vela and 5 other Lumina used their energy powers to create a shield in front of the group. They pushed forward against the remaining guards. The fight was intense but quick. Soon, Alan kicked open the doors to the command center. Inside, Paraxian officers turned in shock. "Surrender," Alan ordered, his weapon raised. Most of the officers dropped their weapons, but one lunged for a red button on the wall, the self-destruct sequence. Vela saw him and reacted instantly. She sent a mental command to another Lumina, who shot energy at the control panel. It sparked and went dark before the officer could reach it. "The base is ours," Vela announced, her voice strong with newfound confidence. Alan contacted his ship in orbit. Constellation, this is Captain Reeves. The situation has changed. We need immediate evacuation for hundreds of freed slaves. Understood. Captain, came the reply. Shuttles are launching now. Vela worked with the other Lumina to secure the base's communication systems. They sent messages to other Dominion outposts where their people were enslaved, spreading news of the uprising. The orbital defense grid, Vela said suddenly, looking at a large screen showing space around the planet. The Paraxians are calling for reinforcements from their main fleet. We must disable it before they arrive. Jack Bennett studied the control systems. I think I can hack into it, but I'll need help understanding the Pyraxian code. A tall Lumina with silver streaks in his blue skin stepped forward. I am Kiro. I maintained their defense systems for 12 years. I can help. While they worked, Alan found Vela standing by a window looking out at the stars. Are you okay? He asked, noticing how the light under her skin pulsed with new brightness. For the first time in 8 years I can feel the thoughts of my people, she said quietly. So many of us survived. We thought we were broken beyond repair, but we were only waiting. She turned to look at him. Why did you help us? Alan stood beside her. On Earth we have a saying, no one is free while others are oppressed. My ancestors fought their own battles for freedom. How could I see what was happening here and do nothing? Alarms blared, interrupting their conversation. Jack called from the control panel. We've got 6 Paraxian warships entering the system. They'll be here in hours. Vela's face hardened with determination. Then we must be ready. She turned to the other Lumina. Connect your minds with mine. Together we can control the defense grid. 20 Lumina formed a circle, holding hands. Their skin glowed brighter as they joined their mental powers. Vela stood in the center, directing their energy. Alan and his team watched in amazement as the freed slaves who just hours ago had been beaten and controlled, now worked together with incredible power. On the screen, the orbital defense platforms turned and aimed at the approaching Pyraxian ships. Send them a message, Vela told the communications officer. Tell them this planet is now under Lumina control, protected by the Earth Alliance. Any ships that approach will be destroyed. Alan looked at her with new respect. The broken slave he had first seen was gone. In her place stood a leader. What will you do now? He asked. Vela's damaged wings spread wide, catching the light. First we fight for this world, then we free our home planet. After that, she smiled for the first time. After that we rebuild. 3 months passed after the great battle at the Paraxian base. The freed Lumina named their new home Freedom Station. What was once a place of pain and slavery now stood as a symbol of hope. Vela walked through the main control room, her once damaged wings now nearly healed. Blue light pulsed strongly under her skin as she greeted other Lumina working at control panels. The station had changed much in these months. Blue crystal structures had grown from the walls, replacing the cold metal of Paraxian design. Good morning, Admiral, Vela said as Alan entered the room. Alan smiled. After the battle, Earth Alliance had promoted him for his bravery. The council meeting starts soon. Are you ready? As ready as I can be, Vela replied. Today, representatives from Earth and 3 other freed slave species would meet to form a new alliance against the Paraxian Dominion. They walked to the Great Hall, the same room where Vela had first been freed. It was now beautiful, with crystal, columns, and soft blue light. The Earth Alliance flag hung beside a new flag showing a Lumina with spread wings. I still can't believe how much has changed, Alan said as they walked. The Paraxians thought they were invincible. Vela nodded. Pride was their weakness. They never imagined slaves could fight back. The battle had been close. When 6 Paraxian warships arrived, the freed Lumina used their mental powers together to control the defense grid. They destroyed 2 enemy ships and damaged the others, forcing them to retreat. News of the rebellion spread quickly through the Dominion. On dozens of worlds, slaves rose up against their masters. Some failed, but many succeeded. especially where Lumina could coordinate with their mental powers. The hall filled with representatives from different species. Humans in blue uniforms sat beside tall green Ixani and small furry Telnar, all former slaves who had won their freedom. Most surprising were two Pyraxians sitting quietly in the corner. Not all Pyraxians supported slavery. After the rebellion, some had broken away from the Dominion to form a peace movement. "This meeting of free worlds will now begin," announced the Earth ambassador. As leaders discussed trade agreements and defense plans, Vela looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was her home world, still under Pyraxian control. Someday they would free it too. After the meeting, Vela and Alan stood on the observation deck, watching ships come and go from the station. "The Lumina ships are almost ready," Vela said, pointing to crystal vessels being built in the shipyard. "Soon we can take the fight to other Pyraxian bases." "Earth will support you," Alan promised. "But be careful. The Dominion is still powerful." Vela turned to face him. "You could have left after freeing us. Why did you stay?" Alan looked thoughtful. "On Earth long ago, people from free countries helped slaves escape. Some risked their lives for people they didn't know, simply because it was right." He smiled at her. "Besides, I've never seen anything as amazing as what your people are building here." Around the station, freed Lumina were creating new technology that combined their crystal energy abilities with Earth's science. The results were ships faster and more powerful than anything the Dominion had. "We have a Pyraxian saying," Vela said, "what is broken cannot be fixed." They thought they broke us, but they were wrong. She spread her healed wings wide, catching the light from the nearby sun. "We were never broken. We were waiting for the right moment, and the right allies." As evening fell on Freedom Station, lights glowed from thousands of windows. Inside, former slaves now lived as free people, making their own choices for the first time. In her private room, Vela removed her neural collar from a small box where she kept it as a reminder. She would never forget her years of slavery. But now she looked forward, not back. The collar had once controlled her, but now she controlled her own destiny. And it had all started with a human who saw her not as a slave, but as a person worthy of freedom.